About my job is that I get to serve a really diverse population of students who generally really value what they're getting. They are working regularly 20 plus hours a week. Um, Many of them have not had the, kind of straight and narrow, easy path, and have faced a lot of challenges in their lives. And that kind of experience in a classroom makes for really vibrant discussions. It makes for angles on things I love that I might not have had myself. Um, the challenges tend to be deeply tied to the need to advocate constantly for what we do and to help those with power to understand its value, particularly the fact that we, on one hand, constantly are trying to prepare students for careers and the chance to become professionals of various sorts, but that our mission is a lot bigger than that. It's about making citizens as well, and it's about deepening their lives and giving them the opportunity to think things and try things that maybe they didn't wherever they came from, and know people that they wouldn't have otherwise. So that isn't always well understood by those, at the top of our culture's power structure, and it's exhausting sometimes when, for instance, Illinois went through a governorship in which Western was basically denied a budget for a full year, and the cuts in support, the loss of fellow faculty with positions unfilled, those kinds of experiences, they're disheartening. But we keep going. We keep, trying to come up with creative ways to do more with less. And I don't think many people understand, though, that there is a point where it really just costs everybody. We've shifted in most states in the country from a period, 4 or 5 decades ago, where you expected a state institution to pay for the costs of 3/4 or more of a student's education, and that student was responsible for about 1/4 of it. And that has completely flipped over the last 4+ decades, so that now students are being expected to cover the vast majority of their educational costs, and it's made the opportunities, more distant for too many. And that's part of the disheartening element too at times.
Yeah.
Contemporary American varieties thereof. I don't mean that I'm infallible, expert in that sense, someone who knows everything, is omniscient in some ridiculous way. But I think a lot of our leaders, political and otherwise, are threatened by expertise and fear contradiction in a way that is really unhealthy. We need a culture in which we can value lives poured into understanding, a set of questions really deeply, and we can turn to those authority figures with some measure of trust, even as we pursue good, healthy, critical debate. And I think we've lost some of that in recent years.
I guess what role would you say that how would you say they intersect in both of your guys'
Yeah. I'll point out 2 ways, and one of them is something we've already covered, and that's the indirectness of funding decisions and policy decisions around, curriculum opportunities, decision making, who they put in charge, and their qualifications. I was disappointed with the recent appointment of someone whose background doesn't include classroom education, excluding a couple of years of adjunct kind of teaching in a higher ed situation. I think that has inescapable effects. Money and trust being provided to school district leaders to serve the public, serve everyone. The other thing they'll say is they create an atmosphere, and I've definitely seen with my kids and their friends how efforts to emulate other states like Florida and Texas, as they've become more repressive, more restrictive of what students read and what they have access to, giving individual citizens the chance to pull books from library bookshelves really easily because there's something within them that they fear, often without having read it themselves. Decisions to take the dignity of people away with bathroom laws, and to obsess over a few cases in a state of students whose questions about their gender identity are active and unclear, and use that to fearmonger. It means that kids today, I'm afraid, are very much growing up with an assumption, with a feel that the world isn't going to be better when they're adults. And for all of the faults of late 20th century America, I definitely grew up with a rosier picture of the future. Sometimes it was naive, but I had good reason as well to hope that our society was going to move forward and advance in significant ways. And I think a lot of teenagers in particular today are growing up in a world where their expectation in general is that things are going to be worse, that adults aren't trustworthy and adults are exploitative. And unfortunately, they've seen good evidence of those patterns. We've been irresponsible as adults with our ecology, with the ways we treat each other or listen to each other or don't. And it's the atmosphere creation that I would add to the funding element, that I think our educational leaders, our politicians particularly, have a big role to play in changing.